just close formation flying and synchronized and opposition aerobatics. Look just how close they are. Pete Wells upside down there with Chris Burkett. So close, his propeller's almost chewing the end off his wingtip. And you see what I mean about how the wing looks very similar to the elliptical wing of the Spitfire. Well, last night with all their lights and pyros, we had some appropriate music. I always associate it with the Twisters, even during the day, so we're going to play that for you now, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the team when that's finished. So performing synchronized and opposition maneuvers now. We saw a couple of aileron rolls there. Now the aircraft are pulling up, pulling over at the top. What looks like a loop, but they roll on the way down for a maneuver known as a half Cuban 8, or a horizontal 8, half horizontal. Imagine a figure 8 lying on its side in the sky there. Now flying in towards each other at a closing speed of close to 200 miles an hour, passing in just a few feet. And showing just how Spitfire-like they look. You'll be able to compare that with the next display item, which is two of the Spitfires from the Battle of Britain Memorial. Chris there formating on Pete's smoke trail. That's fantastic. Yes, we're giving a big cheer down on Green Beach to the Tigers parachutists. So would you believe that this aircraft actually started off as a radio-controlled model, designed by Matthias and Thomas Streecker, pair of brothers in Germany, and it was so successful that they decided to build a real version of the model. And the team leader displaying here today, Pete Wells, saw the first production Silence Twister back in 2004 at Friedrichshafen in Germany, and he realised that this was actually the aircraft that would fulfill his desire to build his own fully aerobatic ultralight aircraft. So he decided to take the silence twister, he modified it to make it fully aerobatic, give it an inverted fuel system, and has been successfully displaying it for many years. And a few years ago they introduced what we saw here last night, their night display with pyrotechnics, with lights illuminating the aircraft and pyros being set off from the wingtips. It was really spectacular. Well, Pete comes from a gliding family. His father, brothers and wife have all held national titles, records, and even world titles. Maybe, perhaps because of what some of his family had done, Pete actually decided to start a glider repair business. Now Pete's there inverted, and we can see his wingman Chris Burkett is rolling around the smoke trail left by from the, well, in fact, I was going to say from the Russian Air Force. Those are the markings it's in. So we were hearing about from Sue there about her son, the Typhoon display pilot for the RAF, and you may have seen in the news how Typhoons have those which are on QRA, that's Quick Reaction Alert, have been scrambled to intercept Russian bombers that have been probing the defences of the UK. And back in the Cold War days, this was the frontline fighter of the Russian Air Force, and in fact a large number of Warsaw Pact and Eastern Bloc countries. This aircraft is actually a Polish-built aircraft that was built in 1952. But the good news is, it's operated by the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron as a representative of their Cold War enemy. Coming in from the left now, low over the pier. Now the designation of this aircraft is UT-1, which shows that it is actually a two-seat trainer aircraft. So if you have any binoculars or zoom lenses, you'll see it has a larger canopy than you'd expect from a single-seat fighter. So it does have the two seats there. So used as a training aircraft. MiGs were used during the Korean War, flown on behalf of the North Koreans. People speculate that they were actually flown by Russian pilots. The Russians have denied that all the time. And of course, during the Korean War, they were engaged by F-86 Sabres of the Allied forces and the US Air Force, and also by Sea Furies of the Royal Navy. And in one famous engagement, a Royal Navy Sea Fury actually shot down a MiG-15 of the North Korean Air Force. That Sea Fury was piloted by one Hoagie, that was his nickname, Hoagie Carmichael.
Looking at those swept-back wings, Peter, the sun glinting on them, it looks to the lay person like myself like a much more modern aircraft than its age.
Well, in fact, the idea of the swept wing was something that the Germans developed. In fact, their major jet fighter during the Second World War, the Messerschmitt 262, had slightly swept wings. And the Allied experiments and implementations of jet aircraft really took on leaps and bounds after the war, when the plans that the Germans had been working on were introduced into British and American jet development. So we had the F-86 Sabre, which looks pretty similar at first glance to this aircraft, and which must have caused problems when they were engaging each other during the Korean War. Famously, there was a part of North Korea that was known as MiG Alley, because that was where there was a preponderance of MiG-15 bases. As an airfix kit, I've no idea, but I still joined the RAF rather than the Russian Air Force.
Did it go together okay?
Did it what, sorry?
Did it go together okay?
It did, yes, because my dad built it, not me.
No missing pieces? Fabulous. And let's enjoy this together as once again the MiG sweeps over the pier, showing us the underside now. What a great shot for the people on Clacton Seafront.
Now flying the aircraft today is Kenneth Whistler, whose idea was the founding of the Royal Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron. And the aircraft that we see is designated Red 18 because at the height of the Cold War, Red 18 was the designation of a MiG-15 stationed in Russia, just across the border from Norway, because those two countries share a border. And Red 18 was piloted by Yuri Gagarin, who I'm sure you know who Yuri Gagarin was, the first man in space in 1961. A very elegant barrel roll there from Kennett. Now, interestingly, this aircraft had a service ceiling of just under 51,000 feet. So this first of the Russian jet aircraft couldn't get as high as the last of the Spitfires that we just saw, the PR-19, which got to 51,500 feet. But it was faster. It was just subsonic, 0.92 Mach. That's just under 570 knots, or just over 600 miles an hour. The prototype MiG flew in December 1947, and the series was produced in the USSR between 1949 and 1959. More than 13,300 aircraft were produced. Foreign license production took place in Poland, Czechoslovakia and China, and added another 6,000 examples to that total. And the aircraft was also used in the what we refer to as the Suez Canal crisis in 1956, when MiG-15s of the Egyptian Air Force took on aircraft of the Israeli Air Force. Now look straight ahead, you can see Kennett flying the MiG straight in towards us and arcing elegantly into the sky. You can see the drop tanks there under his wingtips, under his wing roots, I should say. Being an early jet, this aircraft had a maximum G limit of 8G. And when we see the Typhoon display at the end of the day, Mark Long will be experiencing 9G during some of his turns. And of course the Typhoon is stressed to greater than that. So, why is a MiG-15 part of the Royal Norwegian Historical Squadron, I hear you ask? And the reason is that the Royal Norwegian Historical Squadron was actually formed with Vampire aircraft, which the Norwegian Air Force operated in the 1950s. And just across the border were the Russians with their MiG-15s. So Kennett thought it would be a good idea to add a MiG-15 to the collection, as it's of the same era and yet another classic jet. Here he is now coming in from the left. Let's give Kennett a wave as he flies past. A great opportunity for a topside photo of the aircraft.
And they can hear you and see you, you know, so the more noise you make, the more you wave, the better they will feel about their visit to Clacton. And off he goes into the sunshine. Look at that, the way he's soaring into the sky now over the Jaywick end of West Clacton. I bet people listening to BBC Essex all around St. Osyth and to Jaywick